Hello and welcome to PHP Alive and Kicking, brought to you by PHP Architect and made better by our partners at PHPScore. More about them later. This podcast explores the developments in PHP and what it's like to earn a living in PHP today. I'm one of your hosts, Mike Page, better known as Mike Page Dev, and my co-host, that way, pointing the wrong way, is a long-time contributor to our magazine and now a team member, Chris Miller.
Hey, Mike, how you doing?
Not too bad, thank you. Today's episode is pre-recorded, but you can always jump into our Discord channel and partake in the conversation. If you're watching while this goes live on YouTube or any of our other platforms, you will find me and Chris in the chat if you have any questions. That is... and then Discord is discord.phparch.com. We have a lovely discount code for our magazine for our listeners. Alive 3 will give you 3 months of the digital subscription free when you subscribe to a year. I think that's all the points I had to get on that one. And this time. We also run a conference every year, PHP Tech. Tickets are on sale for next year. We'll be heading back over to Chicago to run that 3-day event. Lots of fun. Love to see as many of you there as possible. And don't forget to head over to our website to check out our swag. We have t-shirts, hats, bottles, all sorts of things over there. Do go along and check them out. So, Chris, who have we got joining us today?
So today we have a good friend of mine, senior developer advocate at Vonage, Jim Seconde. Hey, Jim.
Hello, everybody. I was about to. My opening gambit was going to be to tell Mike that can you buy elephants on the merch store. Now I don't want to cause too much trouble, but the merch store is 403, so that needs to be fixed.
Is it?
Yeah. It's not
I blame Eric.
It's not a VPN, so yeah. Well, that's such a terrible opening gambit. Your store's broken.
It's not broken. It's something your end.
Oh, it's me, isn't it? Right, okay.
There you go. Just to prove it, everyone, before we get accused of anything, the store is working. There we go.
I know exactly what it is, which is I am on my work machine. It doesn't trust you. It doesn't trust architect merchandise. Are elephants on there?
There is an elephant linked somewhere. Unfortunately, it's out of stock.
It's not on the website anymore.
Honestly,
at the time of recording, we're out of stock.
I remember about a year and a half, 2 years ago, you had leftover Laravel elephants, and someone announced it on Twitter or something, and everyone was like, "I'm gonna go and buy one.
Yeah, I managed to grab one Tech 24 before we put them up for sale. So I have 4. You can see, you can kind of gauge how long someone's been in PHP by how many elephants they have, I think.
Yeah, I'm not in my normal office, but in my normal office, there's probably about 50, and I've got 2 oversized ones as well. I've got the silliest one, and I've got the Franken PHP one as well. So which was released 2 weeks ago. So yeah. Lots of elephants. My favorite, well, everyone has a favorite one. My favorite one is the PHP True North one, which is a woolly mammoth. And that was created by True North, which was Chris Hargis in Canada, the testing guy, that guy.
Yeah.
That woolly mammoth PHP toy is just the best. I love it.
See, this one is my favorite one, Jim. Can you remember why?
Did I give you that?
You did. You actually gave me my first elephant, and it is one of the early Laravel ones.
That is the first Laravel. My first one I think my first one was the Symphony 1 one. Not Symphony 1, but the first Symphony one. And then I've got the Then I've got the 15 years grey Symphony one as well. I'm not going to go into the amount of collectibles of these things I've got.
That's my most recent one.
You see that one for the listeners. He's holding up the PHP Stan one. Is that the new? I thought it had a hat on.
No.
Oh.
Or if it does, this one doesn't.
I thought it had a Christmas hat on or something. Is that like? Is it a second? Anyway, yes. I don't have a PHP Stan one, so I do need a PHP Stan one. You can derail pretty much any PHP podcast or discussion with elephants.
Elephants,
yeah.
I think at some point we actually need to get the guy that creates the elephants on. I think that would be a good episode.
Yeah, that would be interesting. Yeah, we'll make note of that one.
Yeah, I've had occasional, like I've had about 2 vague Twitter conversations with him, with like what sort of like quick exchanges, but I don't know anything. I don't know anything about him. I know that Damien Sagai is the other one, and he if there's a new elephant and he knows that I'm there, I suddenly get a DM on LinkedIn, because I presume he has the largest collection in the world, probably.
I wouldn't be surprised.
Yeah.
So we normally start the podcast with this question, but we seem to have gone way beyond that. So let's ask the question.
Classic.
Yeah, pretty much. So how did you get into PHP?
The boring too long didn't read of this is brilliant, because it really is. I had to pick something, didn't I? It's a bit like I think there's in the UK there's a bit of Alan Partridge where it's something like, it's a question like that of like, and what did you do for this? I do, and I can't remember what the characters are or something or anything about it, but they say something unusual. And the person asking is like, really? That's a bit. Why do you do that? Oh, it's an hour, isn't it? Just something. I got into. I did when I arrived in London, attempting to start a theatre career, which I sort of did actually. I did it at the same time for about 10 years, which burned me out magnificently. Doing 2 jobs for 10 years. I had no days off for 10 years. I had 1 holiday for a week. I went to Portugal to see my brother. And I went to a temp agency. Do they even exist anymore? I don't know. I went to Deco because I'd used them before, I think. And they do the usual thing where, to make sure that you're not an idiot, they send you to do something horrendous for 2 days, and then they send you to something horrendous one more time, just to see if you can communicate and you can turn up to the place of work and leave at the right time. That's basically it. And the first one was the first job. The first job was a day of photocopying. So I photocopied all day. That's all I did. I can't even remember the name of the company. And the second one was off the Euston Road in London. There was this sort of charity conference space, and I was like the barista for 2 days, except when they had conferences in, there were like 30 people that were in the charity sector, and no one ever came downstairs, and if they did, they came to get a couple of biscuits. So I basically stood in this coffee area in a basement for like 2 days, and on the second day, this woman said, we looked at your CV. You've got a past with computers, and I said, well, yeah, I sort of do. Can you help me with some Excel spreadsheet? And it was like something out of the IT crowd. She took me to her office, and it was on the ground level, and it was right next to where the tubes were coming under Euston Station. And so every sort of 3 minutes while she was sitting on the computer, this is hell. This is what, and she was like in her mid-40s. I'm like, is this your life? Like doing Excel spreadsheets in this weird dungeon? And once you've done that, then they pull out more serious things, and that's when they pulled out a job out of a hat for young people, I'm scared for younger generations because these opportunities don't exist anymore. They basically said, he's a computer geek. We don't have many computer geeks on our books. Go and do an Oracle QA job. And so I was like, all right. So I walked in, and this project manager was like, "Do you know what this means?" I'm like, oh, well, I'd never I had seen database query language with an old IBM PS2 system actually, and I was like, "That's query language. It sort of does this." And they're like, "Okay, right, this guy will do." So loads and loads of and the experience of that was crazy because it was the offshore, it was the offshore to cheap territories kind of phase where it was being developed by this thing. It's been long enough that I could mention it, but I'm not what it is. I'm not going to mention it, but it doesn't really matter. Was being developed in Bangalore, which was becoming like a massive tech hub, and the communication was just all over the place. None of the developers knew what we wanted or why. So it was like this massive learning curve of learning Oracle and learning the differences between Oracle, and then I started writing databases for actual county court judgment data in Microsoft Access with VBA. Remember VBA? That was awful. And so I was looking at the differences between all these languages, and I got into business. They started pushing me towards business intelligence, and then I started getting sort of limited by the kind of the sort of systems and IT manager, which was he was a bit old school. It was round about the time that AWS had really started. People were starting to notice things like virtualization, and I said, well, I just thought, well, what do I want to do in my life? Well, now I want to become a full stack developer. How do you do that? I asked them for training, and they said, yeah, sure, we'll pay for training. Where do you want to go? And I'm like, I don't know. And I found Meetup at that point, and I basically typed in like, what's the most used stuff, and obviously there you go, PHP was top. So I was like, well, I guess I learned that because everyone else is. And they sent me to there was I think it still exists actually, there's an agency in London. It's not really got the clout that it used to have. At one point it had pretty much one of the most experienced teams that I've ever seen. I mean, now I'd probably say something like Rove Group has probably got those kind of people, but it's called Invika, and they did Symfony training. So I trained in Symfony too, and got used to the Meetup space. So once I'd got those things, that I got my first job as a full stack Symfony developer at a startup, and that was it. And then I was a PHP dev. I think those opportunities and my personality and my ability to make noise, and the fact that, if we're going to be honest, I'm in a privileged position, basically being an English posh white man. That's, not skirt around the fact. I went to Harry Potter school from the age of 7. I was a full boarder from 7 years old, right? So by all means, I should probably be in the cabinet of the UK government, but I chose not to mix with those people. So it's been sort of handed to me, and the PHP space was so welcoming, and I didn't realize you could just go up to the speakers that were on stage. At PHP London was at Sainsbury's headquarters at that point. When I first started going, it was in a pub called the something and something. It was I can't remember what it was called, the dog and something. I did a couple of sessions there, and then there's the Sainsbury's headquarters, and you could just get free training. You signed in, you got given. I mean, obviously they had a selection of soft drinks, but you just get given like beers and food, and then you go and watch people that are at the top of their craft talk for free, and then you go and ask them questions afterwards. I was like, why isn't everyone doing this? This is insane. So that's kind of the origin story, the evil baddie origin story. I might have to, as per usual, of course, you might have heard it, I might have to let my cat in.
This sounds like a good plan.
I think my wife has confiscated him. Yeah, he can hear me speaking straight away. He wants to come to the podcast.
So this was all in London, but I know you no longer live in London and ended up in Birmingham, and now you do this thing called DevRel, or dev advocacy in your case. How the heck did that happen?
Well, the move was, ironically, I basically went through a very, very difficult period in my life. But one of the anchor factors and the big problem was I was never going to leave London. I'm half Brummie, half Cockney, effectively, and
that's an interesting accent to try and concoct.
Don't have one. I can switch one on if you want to. I loved it. I used to do. People used to ask me to do it in the pub. I'm like, oh right, most people are rubbish at Brummie accents, but obviously, I'm kind of from there, so I can do it. Well, actually, I live in the Black Country now. We want to hear something really mad. That's even stronger. There's, it really boils down to buying a house. That was it. It was I was never going to leave London. My girlfriend at the time, my wife now, we started looking at prop flats to buy. They're all leasehold, so you don't own your property. You own your property for 55 years, and then you have to pay all over again. And then there's service charge, and then there's ground rent. And the places we were looking at were like the edge of Bow in East London, and there were kids that were maybe armed, and they're like, yeah. And the agent looks you square in the face and like, obviously this is 2 beds, so this is £400,000, and you're like, it's time to get out of here. So my parents had retired and had moved out of Birmingham, and my wife's parents had moved to Suffolk. So because of that, we were sort of tied where we couldn't go that far north, really. Otherwise, it probably would have been Leeds, I imagine. I wanted Bristol, but Bristol's just as expensive as. Shout out to PHP Southwest, by the way, one of the best user groups in the UK. Dave Liderman will get me a pint for that. And so it was Birmingham, and then when I arrived in Birmingham, the PHP user group, which was PHPWM, was one of the. Honestly, Kat, come on then. There you go. So all right, Jen, I'll put him. Yeah, I'll let him in. He'll feature. Maybe you can do a screenshot of when he comes up and annoys me. He rubs his face all over mine and he smells. Just stop meowing. Just come up. Come on then. What are you meowing for? So, PHPWM, I didn't realise was one of the oldest PHP user groups in Europe, really. And I think here's my bomb drop for the day. In the world of developer relations, it's a name that means something, but I guess to my audience they might not know. But I think it was started or at least ran for a bit by a guy called John O'Bacon, and he sort of created the open source community playbook, if you like. And he started off in the PHP space. Quite a lot of people involved in the field of developer relations started off from PHP, and most of it, like quite a little bit from WordPress, but quite a few from Drupal, actually. So what happens when you go to a city and the user group is dormant and no one's doing anything about it? Congratulations, you're now the organizer. So I became an organizer, and then I started a blog up, which was I don't want to ever see again because I was a junior developer and it probably is hopeless and I don't want to read anything I wrote around that time. So I started a blog up, and then I tried to make a point of I don't have anything to say, so I'm not going to get on stage to speak at my own user group because it feels a bit weird and a bit sort of self-indulgent. But eventually I wrote a talk, and I didn't do it at the user group, which I renamed to Brum PHP. And so I didn't pitch it. I didn't speak on stage at my own thing. Instead, I sort of took it around and I started speaking. So really the conclusion to all of this was I was speaking on stage for free. I was writing for free. I was networking and was already connected via the London networks and the PHP scene because that was all provided to me for free. And then one day someone says, do you realize what you're actually doing is basically a field called developer relations? I was like, oh, okay, I've never heard of that. Because it was what I was doing. So that's when my career change happened from just being a full stack developer to moving into developer relations, which is, I'm not going to go into too much of it because it's quite a niche field. And when I'm talking day to day, with at the end of the day, the people I'm talking to and the conversations I'm having with are engineers, right? And so it used to be in the field of developer relations that you try to be important by saying, oh, I'm a DevRel engineer, I do DevRel. I don't do that because I don't want them to be put off by, oh, you're one of those stage people, aren't you? Because really, the end of the day, I'm just a full stack dev. And well, I say a full stack dev. I'm a full stack dev that's appalling at JavaScript and CSS. So, it's being honest with people and saying, really, what I do is I started off writing a lot of Symfony, and now I write a lot of Laravel. So I'm no different from any of the other attendees at this conference. And that's kind of that's really how to fall into the job. I think it's very, very niche, and a lot of boot campers and young people are like, how can I go into this path? I sort of wouldn't recommend it. I think you have to fall into it, or it's got to be pre-planned well in advance, because it's an extremely competitive and difficult field.
It's an interesting concept as well, of people becoming developer relations before they've been a developer.
Yeah, which is happening quite a lot. And there's also a lot of people that are that have been doing it for quite some time, and at a time when DevRel was put on a pedestal as the ultimate be all and end all. And I've seen it with blockchain, and I've seen it now with AI. And we can get onto AI stuff later because there's something really applicable to what we do with that. But you need to hire DevRel, and then I used to do interviewing way before I started Vonage, and I go through their product and their business use case, and I'm like, you just need good engineering culture. You don't need DevRel at all. And so it's often misrepresented. Junior developers think it's very kind of what's the word? Not extravagant, but it's very sort of a glitzy kind of world of, I get to travel around the world and do stuff. Yeah, yes, you do get to do that, but it is extremely a delicate thing where burnout's really, really high. Because when I do a conference, the conference ends at 5 o'clock in the afternoon. The conference doesn't end at 5 o'clock in the afternoon for me. The conference ends at 2 o'clock in the morning after I've been talking to various people about tech all night. It's that kind of thing. And then you're up at 7 o'clock in the morning to start it all over again. So I think people are saying it's very, very thinking it's really, really glamorous. You've got to be built for this kind of thing.
It's interesting. I've spoken to people who have said that they see it almost like the rock star attitude of go on stage for an hour, talk for a bit, hype some people up, and then sit down. If only it was that easy.
I mean, I would love it if it was just that. That would be brilliant, wouldn't it? Just be getting a great paycheck for sort of going, everyone adores me, and then I get to go off stage and do nothing. But behind the scenes, there is, there's API design, there's helping sales and marketing with targeted pitches, there's the actual strategy of where you are with developers of different languages. There's how you target your writing and what's going to have success rates. The metrics that come in are reported upstairs. If your metrics are bad, you're taking into a meeting of why aren't your metrics good? This is, it's not a fairy tale world. It's hard. I mean, it's okay for me to say this because I'm built for it. My degree is in English literature and theatre. The major part of it is specifically in acting. I trained as an actor. The dissertation is in stand-up comedy that I did. So it all merges into really everything I do. But there's really difficult questions for sort of people that are getting experience in the field of actually speaking without being in DevRel. And they're like, how do you deal with the nerves? And I'm like, and I just think I can't. It's really difficult. I can't help you because I'm an actor, so I don't get the nerves. I get adrenaline. That's different. That's like I'm ready to go. So it's it's a bit of I'm a bit of an odd character though.
Well, on that note, I think it's time to hear from our partners. So we'll be right back.
Thank you to our partners at PHPScore.com. Every app builds up technical debt over time. It's the price we pay for shipping new features and moving fast. When we build up too much of it, though, it can start to impact how we work. Team velocity suffers, bugs become more frequent and take longer to fix, and everyone starts to get a little frustrated. The key to managing debt is to measure it. A credit score can help you understand how well you're managing your financial debt, and now there's a credit score for your technical debt. Go to phpscore.com to get a free technical debt score and monitoring for all of your PHP applications today.
Thank you, PHP Score. I think that was the first time we've ever got that on time.
Yeah, I mean, Jim didn't thank PHP Score.
Well, we don't make it obligatory for our guests. It's all right. You're fine. Don't worry. He's just winding.
Thank you, PHP Score, for all of your cool stuff that you do with PHP profiling.
Thank you.
Thank you.
See, you're even a dev role for companies you don't know yet.
So I'm going to move on to the subject that I did on the podcast last week. I'm sure it'll come up.
Is this the 4-day drinking session, or is this the
what?
Oh, yes.
See, we've had a conversation with a friend of yours recently who told us that you forced them into a 4-day drinking session. Gina,
you obviously did.
Such lies. Like, this thing is a total party animal. I tell you what we saw. Talking of sitting down like a restaurant having some drinks with Gina. I tell you what we saw at API Platform Conference. I've never seen anything like it. It was the weirdest thing. We didn't really know. Everyone on the table didn't know what to do. We went to this quite cool sort of American-style smokehouse bar in Lille, and obviously there was quite a lot of us on the final night. And the waiter was completely overwhelmed with there was only one waiter there, and apparently there was some previous with the barman, and we were in this sort of mezzanine floor, and the barman was shouting up to the waiter, and the waiter said something back. I can't remember what it was because it was in French, but I did actually. Well, I detected the swear words. And then what happened? Have you ever been in a restaurant where there's, I say restaurant, casual dining type? Mm-hmm. The barman came upstairs, the waiter nutted the barman in the face, and then they had a full-on fight, like an assault. And we were like, what? Amongst all these PHP developers just sitting around a table having beers, and we're like, should we call the police? Gina got up and stepped in, and the owner sort of like the owner got in the car and came round straight away after all this happened, and basically calmed the whole situation down pretty much single-handedly. It was just nuts. I guess this is what happens when you're involved in conferences. You just see stuff that I remember talking to. I can't remember who it was. Oh, it was one of the. I think it was Marco Pivetta. I think the doctoring guy, and it was one of his first US conferences. And he said, and he was speaking to Matt Trask, and he said like, "It's my first time in the US with this type of thing. I want to do gun stuff." And Matt Trask was like, "Well, sure, you can do gun. What do you mean? What kind of gun stuff?" I don't know, like gun stuff. So they just went to a range and just got loads of guns and just shot guns, which of course American culture is normal, and to us it's like what? Conferences are completely bonkers. Do you want me, before you ask the next question? Do you want the conference story that I was going to talk in the green room about?
Because
yes. Yes. Let's go back to was this at Tech 24?
This was at Tech 24. So led the standard charge as led by Ben Ramsey was the hot dog hats come on because the birthplace of VerstCon. And so I've got my hot dog hat. This story isn't even about the origin of the hot dog hat that I had, which is the UK British approved version of the hot dog hat, because it was slightly different. I'm not even going to get into why that is. So we all put our hot dog hats on. For anyone listening, you've got to find out the story behind VerstCon and loads of PHP developers turning up in a documentary about hot dogs. It's completely ridiculous. So the hot dog hat comes on. We go to Super Dog, I think it is the sort of the one they always want to go to. Ben Ramsey stands up and does the story about VerstCon, and it's honestly, it's like sort of watching your dad, who's your hero, sort of speaking in the middle of Super Dog where there are other customers, of course. Doesn't really matter. I'll go back to the hotel near the airport, and this really strange short man, and I'm quite short, but this short man who was dressed in a suit, he looked a bit like Danny DeVito, and he was a New Yorker, and he was hanging around the bar area, and he came up to me. I've got a real difficulty now because I have to repeat his words, and of course he was swearing, so this is really difficult. So I can't do a one-to-one impression of him, but he said he just walked up to me and went, "I really like your hat." Thanks. What do you want for it? I'm not selling my hot dog hat. I've got it because we all wear I'm the only one who's kept it on, and it's a running joke within the PHP. I don't listen, son. I don't care. I don't care what you gotta say. I want that hat. And I sort of wanted to leave it a bit, and then he came back again, and I was like, oh, and then he goes, "Hey, I got a story for you. I'm going to put this down here. I'm going to take the hat, and then you got a story for your friends back in England." It's $100 bill, and I'm just like, if it takes this to just get rid of you, I'm going to have to take it. So off this Danny DeVito lookalike in a hotel in Chicago, I took $100 for the sodding hot dog hat. I've still got it. I've got the $100 bill framed. Again, it's just what happens at conferences. Strange things happen. But for anyone that's this doesn't always happen, by the way. You can just, if you're quite sort of introverted, you don't have to get involved in all these bonkers things. But this was happening at the same time as I'm not going to remember her name, and I'm going to be really upset with myself for not remembering her name. She's from Wisconsin, and so because she's from Wisconsin, naturally, she's brought 3 crates of Wisconsin craft beer that blow your head off, and we're all sampling that at the same time. So it was all over the place. But remember, whilst these things are happening, you've got the conference organizers that are there, so it's not officially under the code of conduct, but it sort of is. You have to know what you're doing. You can't overstep the mark. If you do, well, you're out. And I think that when I first started running meetups, codes of conduct seemed like some sort of strange overkill, and I didn't really. I thought, I was like, do these things really need this? Well, apparently everyone tells me to, and I've had to enforce them, and I'm surprised actually at like how many people you get to break them. Right, I'll let you speak now.
Well, normally when you're doing your WorstCon, is it whatever you VerstCon? That's it. VerstCon.
I encourage new PHP developers to get involved with it because it's slowly kind of dying out, and it's a fun tradition. So
it's pretty popular at Tech, if I remember rightly. But unfortunately, we don't get to join in at Tech because we're stripping everything down and packing up at that point. You've all gone out for your hot dogs and just left us with all these rooms to pack up and strip down. We're not allowed to eat until it's done. Eric's there with his whip.
Yeah, I mean, I've been running a conference is a very, for insight and for listeners, running a conference is an extremely difficult and very thankless task. It requires an immense amount of work, and a lot of the time you have to watch your emotions, because you'll start to become slightly resentful and angry at times this is when you're sort of like running a small team, like a small team that are doing a conference, because honestly, when the feedback comes in, you'll just see stuff and you're like, really? I've just done this conference and the tickets are like sort of $200. And for what you get to see the leaders of an entire programming language that we've had to curate and put together. And then we've had to include all the food and everything. And you're really grumpy about gender neutral toilets. Is that really like, is that really what's bothering you? It's not great. And I've run meetups, I've run a couple of conferences, and it's always the same. So, you know, listeners can you know, I'm basically saying, you know, make sure you thank your conference organizers, because it's a hard job.
And the other thing is as well, feedback, you naturally get the negative, but rarely do you actually get good feedback of like, do you know what, that was brilliant. As
a speaker, if you've done an awesome talk, you'll hear absolutely nothing. If you've done something that, wow, actually, brigade, come on, then you'll know about it, because they'll all mention it. And so it's it's the same with the actual conference organizing itself. It's very, very difficult to only get negative feedback, when usually it's the sort of it's the silent majority that are actually should be sort of carrying the opinion of the event. But that's always the way across things, really, which is that when it comes into developer relations, obviously the most valuable thing that we have, at Vonage, specifically at my team, is feedback from customers. Getting it's hard. They're just if they've got something ticking along and they're sending 2 million text messages, or they've got 2-factor authentication using our Verify API, and they've got an integration that hasn't changed with the PHP SDK for 3 years, they're not going to write to you and say, do you know what, fantastic job. It's running as usual, so they won't say anything. And if you ask them, they'll be like, oh yeah, we'll get around to it. And then you never. The feedback loop is difficult.
Reminds me of that meme that you see. It's specifically targeted at IT, but everything's going well. Why are we even employing you people? Everything's going badly. Why are we even employing you people?
The memes that I always identify with, there's that one. Then there's the thing that I've seen a lot of in the financial sector, because I was adjacent to the financial sector for a bit as well, which is, I can't remember what it is. It's not. I don't think it's one of the regular tech, cartoons. I think it's like, he feels like something like Gary Larson or something like that, but I don't think it's as old as that. But it's where there's like 9 managers around a hole in the ground, and they're all pointing at Dave, who's doing the digging, and they're like, Dave's not doing a good enough job. I'm not going to name them, but there's one that was just so funny. There was like, you know, it was a mate of mine had like 4 managers, and they were all fighting amongst themselves, but there's only one person to do the work. That makes no sense whatsoever.
Yes, managers and then managers.
We've got this guy on the podcast. We've mentioned nothing about the future of PHP and what's exciting.
We're getting there. We're building up.
I'm hoping that, you know, 3/4 of this makes the cutting room floor until I actually talk about the reason why the podcast is here.
I know. At the moment, we're not cutting anything out. This is all.
this is genuinely brilliant.
But this also shows we're all human, and the sort of the different personalities and things like that. And we're trying to be. One of the things we're trying to do is attract new people to PHP, and one of the greatest things is talking about things like our the conferences that are within PHP, and the fun you can have or not have, depending on. I mean, I have a lot of social anxieties, and I've talked about it a number of times on different shows and different varieties. But one of the first things is the first PHP tech I went to, PHP conference I went to was tech. Luckily, I work for PHP Architect, so I was flown out to Chicago to work. My background is actually in theatre tech. So I'm actually a lighting and sound engineer in theatre.
Part of my story I didn't say is that I didn't actually end up going on stage as an actor for 10 years when I worked in theatre. I did that. I did lighting design and sound design.
We need. So I still do it. I do it more as a hobby now, for a local group. that my wife does a lot of acting with. So I do their shows. But so I've got flown out to work on that, and being what I thought was going to be like the only person from the UK there, and feeling very welcome until the last night when this really random, drunk, strange bloke walks up to me and says, "Oh, another British accent," and then just walks off before I could respond or even start a conversation with him. And now doesn't remember. Now doesn't remember that.
It's not clear to the listeners. The person he's talking about is me. I don't remember that.
Are we establishing a pattern here that you are mainly drunk in the foyer or mainly talking to people?
That's not true.
In all fairness, it's the last night, so the conference has officially finished.
It makes me sound like a sort of a nightmare alcoholic. No, it's a party, and as you say, with codes of conduct and with the conference organisers of things like SymphonyCon and Laracon, and the old ones that are still going, like Dutch PHP Conference, PHP Tech, Longhorn PHP, and PHP UK. They're experienced conference organisers that know that you have to cater for a variety of people. Mm-hmm. You can be part of the party. You can not be part of the party if you don't want to be. You're not kind of. I think the first night in tech, and I think they did this probably this year, because they always do. It's like the first conference social is a very well balanced thing where it's got there's alcohol if you want it. Mm-hmm. That's obviously optional. There's obviously other options where you don't have them, and the primary theme is indie board gaming. That's kind of perfect because sort of everyone gets what they want. I mean. Mm-hmm. I didn't get what I want, which is I joined a poker table with Sarah Goldman and lost my money very quickly. And Sarah was like super animated about the poker game, and so yeah. Anyway, you can get what you want if you want to just if you're especially like if you're part of company tickets, it's fine. But if you're on your own and unfamiliar territory, and some of this comes with the code of conduct and safeguarding, especially for non-white male blokes, is if you're a woman or you're a woman of color on your own. I'm trying to remember if that's the correct phrase that you can say because that's come back into language, but it's an intimidating environment, and you never know what you're going to get. I think with looking at the European scene with Symphony, well, actually, rather than Symphony, a better one is DevFest. And is that what it's called? No, it's not what it's called at all. It's DevSum, and that's in Sweden. I did that this year, and the split was, it was in Sweden, right? And then Sweden is a very, very sort of like a sort of a cultural equality. It's famous for equality. That was almost a 50-50 split. I've never seen that. I've never really seen that at a conference. And that included, there were South Asian people, there were black people, and they could be American, they could be European, they could be, they could have come over from India or Pakistan and stuff like that. And it was just nothing really sort of mattered. So whereas some conferences you just don't get that split, and sometimes it's very, very difficult, but you have to try to make it that way. But that's why we have these codes of conduct. It's very, very intimidating. And what I'd like to try and convey is that every single conference that I've ever been to, I mean, I'm supposed to be a leader or whatever it is in the PHP scene. And bearing in mind, I still regard myself as kind of a sort of a young whippersnapper, considering the experience that some of the other people have got there. It's sort of everyone's job in a way to, like, if the semicircle is closed off, then you move and then you go, oh, what do you do? I've personally in PHP, I can't speak for other languages, seen a lot of that happening. Mm-hmm. And I can speak for the community from the Laravel perspective that the Laravel's scheme has looked, mm-hmm. from what I can see, pretty sort of successful. I mentor on it as well. That's kind of the next that's really the sort of modern iteration of the original PHP women. But I don't really. That was before my time in PHP.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I will correct one slight thing you did say. Because you say conference organizers have to cater for lots of different people. I feel that, especially with tech, and yes, I'm biased, but with tech, we want to cater for everyone that's come. So it's welcoming for anyone. This is one of the things that we really strive to do. And for my first time going over, even though I was a member of the team, I did feel very welcome. I'm very much the sort of person that I won't come and talk to you if I don't know who you are. But if you come and say hi to me, we'll talk for hours. I have to have that icebreaker from the other person. I can't do the icebreaker. I've always struggled with that. And I found that very easy when I went to tech. There was the number of people just talk to you, just sort of end up sitting at the same table, like in the evening. So we will have, although it's officially only one night we do the board games, it's actually both on the first and second day. People will be in the main room playing, and I'm normally sitting with a chess set, so people come play a game of chess with me, or there'll be all sorts of games going on. I'm trying to remember. I ended up playing something with Derek for quite a long time one evening, which I probably shouldn't have done because I was actually really ill with a cold this year. And I had to experience the US medical system because I had an accident on the first day there.
Oh
yeah, I dropped a speaker. I was putting the speakers up, lifting the pole up, wasn't quite concentrating, let go, didn't get my finger out of the way quick enough and squashed my finger at the top of the pole and underneath the speaker. That was fun, and we couldn't get it to stop bleeding, so I had to go to the one of the emergency rooms that I got taken down to. And then I came down with this cold, so I'm trying to deal with the pain of my finger and the cold. So it wasn't the most fun week for me this year, unfortunately.
A bit of a war story, that, isn't it? Really?
Yeah, I know. But I'll tell you what, one of the good things that came out of it is that I flew however many miles away it is to meet Chris for the first time.
Yes.
I mean, you see that as a bonus, and I see that as a bit of as something to not. It's like a sort of the opposite of a perk, really.
Well, that's your opinion. Everyone's got their own opinion. Yours is wrong.
Yeah.
Yours is wrong, but
you are entitled to have your wrong opinion.
Mind you, I have to be nice because Chris does have my tech elephant, so.
I do.
I need to get on the bus for 25 minutes to go and get my tech elephant at some point. I don't know when that'll be.
All you need to do is tell me when you're in town, and I will bring it to you.
Are you not both at a conference fairly soon?
We are
at the time of this recording.
I mean, if we haven't met before the 14th of November, I will bring it with me. So you'll be having me bring that, and you'll be bringing something else for Mike, and basically we're all just going to swap over things that we've got.
The native PHP snapback. Yeah, I do. Yeah, there's lots of transport and logistics to happen by the sounds of things.
Well, that's quite a nice sort of conversation about conferences. So do get down to conferences, and you're not obliged to join in with everything if you don't feel comfortable. So please don't feel like you have to. But the PHP community is so welcoming to new people, and someone there will talk to you and chat to you and take you under your wing or whatever. Or if you just need to go back to your room, most conferences now have spaces for people, like a quiet room. We certainly do it at Tech. There's a quiet room where you can go during the day, and the beauty of Tech at the moment is that we do it in a hotel. So and most people are staying in the same hotel, so you just go up to your room. And if you need that time out, we completely understand. I don't get that privilege because I'm normally running around like a complete and utter idiot most of the day, trying to make sure that all the tech works. But let's segue on a little bit more. So one of the things that we really want to try and do in as part of this sort of show and this podcast is talk a bit about cool new stuff that's coming in PHP into PHP. So what sort of things at the moment for you, Jim, is kind of exciting you about PHP?
I think we're I think we're entering into a sort of second golden age, if you like. The first golden age, you'd probably say, is the acceleration of both Symfony and Laravel. Really, well, or you could say the rise of CMSs, but a lot of those CMSs in legacy PHP are pretty scary under the hood. But I'd say that there's the innovation that's happening from both the Laravel and Symfony communities, and then seeing both of those communities collaborate with each other and talk to each other and speak at each other's conferences and things like this is what is making everything very, very exciting from the innovation perspective. I mean, there's things that there's old stuff that still hasn't been, that there's things that have been around a long time that still haven't been transmitted outside of the PHP space that we know about. And this came up on the PHP podcast, which is a CTO addressing other CTOs and saying that Perl and PHP is legacy. Perl, I would argue, is, but and that's just sort of a fact, really. And that's not really, there's no, the reasoning's fairly sort of boring, but PHP, the only reason why it's still the way it is because the innovation behind it. So I think I've spoken to several developers that first of all don't know that you don't even have, with React PHP, you don't even have one choice of event loop. You have multiple choices of event loops if you want to run an event loop. And that's been around since before PHP fibers came in. There was still an event loop. So when anyone who tends to be inexperienced says PHP is slow and old, and you're like, right, well, why do you think that? Sometimes 50% of the time they come from the node world and they say, well, we have an event loop that runs asynchronously. Okay, so what? you can do it. And that brings into the fact that we've had Swool and now Swool plus Open Swool, if there's a split from that, and Roadrunner and stuff like that. We've had it for years. It's just that it's not really being communicated outside the PHP space. So we've already had this kind of, I think really you could say the origin story of the innovations happening now comes from Hip Hop Virtual Machine and the sort of the kick that Facebook gave back to PHP, and then we ended up with 7, where the performance and the benchmarking, and we had the JIT compiler and stuff like that. But there's the new sort of crop of things that's really exciting is coming from 2 major parts. And firstly, it is in Laravel land. You have the 57 or $58 million investment from Excel, and Laravel have expanded their team massively at a very quick rate. And I watched Joe Dixon give a keynote where he did the first kind of demo I've seen. Well, it's not actually, it's a second demo, but now as a mature product of Laravel Cloud. And I couldn't quite believe what I was looking at. I just thought, okay, that's where the money's going. That's where the money's going. I've written an article that's due for publication soon on Nightwatch. I wrote a Vonage RCS messaging app, and I used Livewire for the first time. I know I'm slow, but the cogs of enterprise move slower. We have to think about. But I didn't just do it with Livewire. I did it with Livewire and I did it with Echo and Reverb. And to watch Reverb in action, I was like, okay, this is really quite something. And then from that community, the big one for me is probably native PHP. I think that native PHP, when I first saw it, I thought, okay, it does feel like sort of mad scientist stuff. And is there a need? Is like, how much adoption is there going to be? How much demand for it is there? But from speaking to Shane and Simon, the kind of target of what they want to be able to do, which is effectively I mean, it starts with Laravel, but if you support them and you start deploying to production, maybe they can do a Symfony wrapper as well.
Mm-hmm.
The ability to boot up a Laravel app, write your Laravel app, and then just have it natively running and have access to the entire native APIs of either an iOS or an Android device is sort of a product killer, because I know the mobile market, and you speak to a Flutter developer, and I'll tell you what, if there's one thing that Flutter developers hate, it's Flutter.
Yeah.
And now they have Bifrost.
And that
That makes it even easier.
they've got cloud builds for it. So with for anyone who doesn't know, Bifrost is the company, and that's the cloud build platform for it. To be able to say you can just, there's an external appeal to, do you know how easy it is to write a native web app? You can just do a Laravel app and it will just build natively onto Android or iOS. Is kind of a bit of a kind of market game changer, I think, personally.
Oh, definitely. Yeah, definitely.
From the Symfony world, that's the Laravel world. From the Symfony world, my talk was a discovery talk on starting out with API platform. And bear in mind that API platform has been around for 10 years, and I've heard of it. But to actually use it absolutely blew my head off. I've never seen anything like it. It created out of all of my eloquent models. Doesn't really matter if you want Symfony, you can just do it. It's just in doctrine entities. You put one tag on and then start picking what attributes it uses, and it just exposes all of your API. It's nuts. And a .NET developer was in the audience. He was one of my team members, and he was like, "Okay, I didn't know this was possible. This is quite powerful stuff." And I'm like, "Yeah." The fact that it then comes with the front end where you /API, it gives you like a Swagger open API spec. It's just like, it's nuts. It's absolutely nuts. So, I mean, that's one thing. And then you've got Franken PHP, which is going to change the default runtime of running PHP on the web, which is the majority use case of it anyway. As far as I'm concerned, it sounds like everything should be using Franken PHP, just everything. It's looking at all the benchmarks and what kind of impact, and especially for if you have sort of like data workers, service worker type things that are like either polling or running on cron jobs. It's kind of like blowing other languages runtimes kind of out the water a bit. And of course, like I said, no one knows outside the PHP space because we're old hat, and and everyone still thinks that I'm going to say it. Sorry, everyone thinks that all the code looks like sort of WordPress code, and this is with a pinch of salt. I'm going to say this. I have uttermost respect for WordPress developers, because that is the hardest platform I've ever had to code for. Because it's got so much tech debt in the project that to do something effectively is a massive challenge. And in Symfony and Laravel, you don't have that massive challenge because it's a sort of modern architected thing that's got maturity of 15 years or so.
And it's quite amazing to think that on top of all that, you've now got the next layer coming in of AI innovations. So you've got the Foundation have released their SDK for the MCPs. You've got Laravel Boost. You've got the other one whose name escapes me. Lara something.
The Copilot one.
That's it, Lara Copilot.
Yeah.
You've got innovation of AI support, but not only that, you're beginning to see innovation in using PHP to do machine learning.
Yeah, it's and also to kind of to follow on from the theme of this is great, because you finally somehow managed to get me to talk seriously about what I do. I say what I do, what we do actually, but following on from the theme of the worlds of Symfony and Laravel contributing and effectively coming together in a common goal. You mentioned the Lara Copilot, which comes from Vishal, which is Vitor Technologies, I can't remember. They run Laravel India, and then you've got Laravel Boost. That comes from Nuno, I think.
It's
Nuno and And we've
Ashley.
Hindley. That's it. I'm right.
Oh yes,
Brain went dead. We've literally we've just recorded an episode with him, which will possibly come out before this one, or no, it will come out before this one. So I'm not just like, sorry, brain just went dead then.
That's you've got like I said, the sort of the separation of the worlds. That's the innovation from the Laravel world. And the MCP, the official PHP Foundation MCP server, comes from the Symfony world. That's people. I don't know. I'm going to assume it's people like sort of Nicholas Grekus and people like that have worked. It'll be sort of them under Sensia Labs, but that comes from that comes from them. And so, if you think about it, if you've got a Laravel app which you then are using Laravel Boost for your internal AI development of the actual application itself, and then the runtime environment then includes Franken PHP to run it on, and also that app needs kind of needs an MCP server for something else that's interfacing, which comes from the official PHP one. So you've got two parts Laravel, you've got two parts Symfony, and it comes together. And you've got some innovation and some a development stack that I just can't really. The only other fanboy thing I really do is Golang, and I'm still not that experienced in Golang. I know a bit, which I'm a big fan of the language. It's got its own strange intricacies, but then we're PHP developers, so if we want to talk about crazy double colon interpreted wrong and a constant that's an Israeli word, it's something, whatever it's called. What's it? I can't remember what it's called. Do you know the thing I mean?
No.
I'm glad Chris said that.
No.
The Hebrew constant. Oh, you young people! Right, I've got to go and find it now.
Jim, you say young people. I am older than you.
And I'm pretty sure I'm older than you as well. although in development career I am younger than you, so I've only been in this world for about 5 years. So
I mean, if we want to argue development careers, I started developing before PHP existed. So.
We know you remind us quite often.
I know. I just like reminding Jim as well.
Right, where's the chat? I feel in a way, and I'm not gonna big you up for that. I'm basically gonna say I feel sorry for you because the languages back then must have been terrible. Where's the? I can't post in the chat.
Private chat.
I'll have to put it in the private chat. Here you go. You don't know about that?
Right? No, I have no idea what the heck that is.
No.
So put that up. Type it into the. You can try and pronounce it for anyone listening on Spotify. This is an infamous PHP joke.
Yeah, you're asking the dyslexic guy to read something. That's not going to work.
I think it's I think it's a sort of not anglicized. What's the word? A Latin version of effectively Hebrew script, which was created, I'm guessing, from Zend, because I think Zend were based in Tel Aviv, and it basically is a compiler. It's a not compiler. It's a runtime error, and it's if there is it's an unexpected colon. But what that word is to do with what a colon is described in Hebrew, but Latinized. So if you make an error, it comes back with that constant, and it's
helpful.
It's ridiculous. You'll never ever see that. You'll never see that error message. I don't think you'll ever see it in your lifetimes. But the fact that it's still there is the funny joke. It's almost like an in joke.
See, I am now going to have to find out if I can make it happen.
That shouldn't be too difficult. If I've typed it in, and the first thing that comes up is one of Phil Sturgeon's blogs on it. Probably not surprising that Phil is the one basically laughing at it. It's from quite a long time ago, and he details in there how to make it happen. If you want to see it happen,
I want to see it happen because I did not know this existed. And I thought I'd made every error possible in PHP by this point.
I've got a new one for you.
So we've now covered constants that are in a different language. Where are we going next?
Well, where do you want to go? I'm not gonna treat this like the podcast I used to do, because me and my podcast pal was Mike Elsmore, and the whole point we basically try to derail it as much as possible on purpose, and there are some episodes that are virtually not tech at all.
Yes.
There was one where we got onto you can't buy tomatoes in supermarkets, and we were talking about mini cherubs with little willies on churches. It got going.
Well, I'm thinking on that note, it's probably time to start thinking about signing off. We have gone over the hour mark that we try and stick to.
Yep.
So Jim, thank you very much for joining us. It's we'll have to have you back on just for laughs. Just for the laugh, keeping us entertained. So I hope everyone else out there that's watching or listening are entertained by this conversation as well. I'm probably gonna have to re-watch it now because I can't work out what we've been talking about anymore. So
I've got to write some show notes on this in a bit.
This tends to happen. I've got to say, in terms of like making myself look like a reliable podcast guest to have on in your general podcast, whether it be Magenta or Symphony or something like that. I'm not really doing myself any favors, am I? By just derailing stuff as much as possible. But everyone else is really sort of serious about their stuff, so I might as well come in and just sort of ruin it for everyone.
But I think also it shows different personalities within the community. So. Yeah, or you just do the job long enough, you end up like Jim.
Yeah,
become a sort of walking like cynicism machine. That's not that's not an accurate way to do it.
I think that's the next podcast episode. How do you become as cynical as Jim?
Not that cynical. Hey man, if you got me on about 2 years ago talking about blockchain, it would have been a sort of disaster. But AI is one of those ones where you're like, well, no, I can't just say AI is rubbish anymore, because it's kind of not, and you've got to face that it is going to change everything. So I spoke positively about it. I didn't get onto AI slop and weird political figures creating AI images that look obviously weird and fake, and you're like, right, well, that's the not good side of things.
Yeah. Okay. So before we go down that rabbit hole,
I wasn't.
No, I think we'll leave it there for today for this show. So thank you very much, Jim, for spending some time with us. Just remember that you can head over to our Discord server and jump in, have a chat. There are loads of people in there, developers like us, and then you've got PHP royalty in there that built packages that you probably use every single day if you're a professional PHP developer.
We even have core developers
and
read the language.
Yeah, we have core developers in there that will answer questions if you need it, or just general chat. We just sit back and chill. Also, don't forget to head over to YouTube if you're not already on YouTube. Subscribe to the channel, like the video, will be great. And don't forget magazine discount. If you're listening to this, you do get a discount. Alive, all capital 3, will give you 3 months of the digital subscription for free when you sign up for a year's subscription. And if you can, we'd love to see you over at Tech next year, or this year, depending on when we actually release this episode. I'm sure it'll be 25. So 26 is tickets are on sale. And also our swag, we've got our t-shirts and things like that we looked at earlier, that the link is not broken. It does work, as we have proven earlier. So thank you very much once again, Jim. Thank you very much for everyone watching or listening, and we'll catch you at the next one. See ya.
Bye.